At 8:17 a.m., every phone in America vibrated at the same time. No warning. No logo. No explanation. Just one sentence on a black screen. Today, at 12 p.m., every lie you've ever told will be exposed. People laughed. Then they froze. Because the message didn't disappear. And because, beneath the sentence, there was a countdown. 3 hours. 42 minutes. 13 seconds. Evan Miller was standing in line for coffee when his phone buzzed. He read the message once, smirked, then read it again. Around him, the cafe went quiet in a way that didn't feel normal. No clinking cups. No music. Just the soft sound of people breathing differently, like they were all holding something back. Some hacker stunt, someone muttered. Yeah, another voice said too quickly. Fake. Evan nodded, but his hands were shaking. Not because he believed it. Not exactly. But because his phone had never scared him before. At 8:22 a.m., the news picked it up. At 8:31, the government denied everything. At 8:44, social media went insane. People searched for explanations. Cyberattacks, mass hallucination, ARI experiments, foreign interference. Hashtags exploded. Memes appeared. Jokes. Then arguments. Then fear. Because no one could make the countdown stop. At 9:10 a.m., the first test happened. A woman in Ohio received a notification under the countdown. A video file. It showed her, 3 years earlier, telling her sister she couldn't come to the wedding because of limited space. The caption below read, "Truth. You didn't want her there." She screamed. Live. On Instagram. By 9:30, thousands of people were receiving similar files. Messages. Audio recordings. Screenshots. Videos. Not rumors. Not accusations. Proof. Perfect. Undeniable proof. By 10 a.m., people stopped laughing. By 10:15, people started calling each other. By 10:30, people started confessing, voluntarily, trying to get ahead of what was coming. Evan sat alone in his car, engine off, phone in his lap. He hadn't gone to work. No one had. The city felt paused, like a held breath before a scream. His phone buzzed again. A preview image appeared. It was him. 10 years ago. And across the thumbnail, one word burned into his chest. Dad. Evan dropped the phone. No. 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 He picked it up again, hands numb, and opened the file. The video showed his father sitting at the kitchen table, pale, coughing. Evan stood across from him, younger, nervous, holding a folder. "I'll take care of it," Evan said in the video. "I promise. I won't let you lose the house." The video froze. Text appeared. "Truth. You never intended to help." Evan couldn't breathe. His father had died 6 months later. Believing Evan. Trusting him. Proud of him. The house had been sold. Evan had told everyone it was unavoidable. The countdown kept ticking. At 11 a.m., airports shut down. At 11:15, the stock market collapsed. At 11:30, couples started separating in silence, sitting on opposite sides of rooms, phones glowing between them like weapons. At 11:45, churches filled. Not with prayer, but with people staring at their screens, waiting to be judged. At 11:58, the entire world watched the countdown reach its final seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. At noon, every device unlocked itself. And everything came out. Every deleted message. Every secret account. Every affair. Every betrayal. Every quiet cruelty disguised as kindness. Politicians were exposed in minutes. CEOs resigned in seconds. Influencers vanished. Families shattered. Friendships imploded. Some people ran. Some people collapsed. Some people finally told the truth out loud because there was no point hiding anymore. But then something unexpected happened. At 12:17 p.m., the messages stopped. No new files. No new revelations. Just one final notification, delivered to everyone. This was a test. Another message followed. You were never meant to be punished. Then the last line. You were meant to choose. Choose what? Panic turned into confusion. Confusion into anger. Who did this? Why? How? At 12:30, a new option appeared on every screen. A single button. Reset. Below it, small text. If pressed, all data from today will be erased. Memories will remain. Consequences will not. The world split instantly. Some people slammed the button without thinking. Others stared at it, trembling. Evan stared at his phone for a long time. If he pressed reset, the world would forget. His father would still be dead, but the truth would fade back into silence. He could go on living as the man everyone thought he was. If he didn't, people would remember. His mother. His sister. Himself. Around him, phones chimed as people made their choices. The cafe filled again. The streets buzzed. Some cried with relief. Some screamed in rage. Evan thought of his father's face. Not in the video. In real life. The last time they spoke. "You're a good man," his father had said. Evan closed his eyes. At 12:59 p.m., the button disappeared. At 1 p.m., a final statistic appeared on every remaining screen. 73% chose reset. 27% did not. No explanation. No goodbye. The system vanished. Life resumed. But it wasn't the same. Because some people remembered everything, and some people lived beside them pretending nothing had happened. Weeks later, Evan stood in front of his mother's house. He hadn't pressed reset. He'd lost friends. His job. His reputation. But for the first time in his life, he felt something close to peace. He knocked. His mother opened the door, eyes tired but clear. "I know," she said quietly. "I saw it all." Evan swallowed. "I'm sorry." She studied him for a long moment, then stepped aside. "Come in," she said. "If we're going to live in a world where the truth exists, we might as well learn how to survive it." That night, across the country, people began to notice something strange. Those who hadn't pressed reset started finding each other. Not through apps. Not through messages. But through honesty. And slowly, quietly, a new question spread through the world. If the truth disappeared tomorrow, would you still be brave enough to live it? 3 months passed. The world looked normal again, on the surface. Traffic lights worked. Stores reopened. New shows dropped on streaming platforms. Politicians gave speeches about unity and moving forward. People laughed in public, posted photos, argued about sports and weather. But something invisible had cracked. Those who pressed reset learned quickly that forgetting didn't mean healing. It meant living next to people who looked at you differently. Quieter. Sharper. Like they were measuring the distance between who you were and who you pretended to be again. And those who didn't reset, they carried a weight that never left. Evan became one of them. There was no badge. No public list. But they recognized each other anyway. In grocery stores. On buses. In lines at pharmacies. It was in the eyes, an unguarded stillness, like they had nothing left to hide. At first, Evan tried to go back to his old life. It didn't work. At job interviews, people smiled politely until they checked his name. Someone always had. Someone always remembered. Doors closed softly, without arguments, without accusations. Just silence. He stopped explaining. Explanations sounded like excuses now. One night, while scrolling through a nearly abandoned social feed, Evan noticed something strange. A comment under a forgotten post. No username. Just text. "If you didn't reset, you're not alone." He frowned. The comment had thousands of likes. More appeared. Under random videos. Old news articles. Cooking tutorials. Always the same sentence. Always posted at exactly 2:17 a.m. Evan stayed awake the next night. At 2:17, his phone vibrated. A new message. Unknown contact. "You felt it too, didn't you?" Evan stared at the screen. He typed, erased, typed again. Evan. Felt what? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Reappeared. Unknown contact. The moment the world chose comfort over truth. Evan's throat tightened. Evan. Who is this? The reply came instantly. Unknown contact. Someone who didn't press reset. Someone who's been waiting for you. A location followed. An address. Abandoned train station. Outside the city. Evan didn't tell anyone. There was no one left to tell. The station was dark, graffiti covered, silent except for wind sliding through broken windows. A single light burned near the platform. Under it stood a woman. Mid-30s. Short hair. Calm posture. No phone in her hands. "You came," she said. "So did you," Evan replied. She smiled faintly. "That's how I knew you were real." They sat on opposite sides of a cracked bench. For a moment, neither spoke. "My name is Lena," she said finally. "I used to work in data ethics." Evan let out a humorless laugh. "Figures. It wasn't a hack," she continued. "Not exactly. The system that exposed everything, it wasn't built to punish lies. It was built to measure something else." "What?" Evan asked. She looked at him. Directly. No fear. No filters. Who we are when there are no consequences. Evan felt a chill. The reset button, Lena said, was never about mercy. It was about preference. The system wanted to know. When given the choice, would humanity choose truth or comfort? And Evan asked quietly. She gestured around them. 73% answered. Evan thought of his father again. Of the house. Of the promise he never intended to keep. "Why tell me this?" he asked. "Because the system didn't shut down," Lena said. It went quiet. She reached into her jacket and placed a small device between them. No screen. Just a blinking light. "It's still watching," she said. "Learning." The light blinked twice. "And now," she added, "it's asking a second question." Evan swallowed. "Which is?" Lena leaned closer. "What happens when the truth becomes contagious?" Across the country, things were already changing. Companies quietly began hiring people who hadn't reset. Not for morality, but for predictability. They didn't lie on resumes. They didn't fake enthusiasm. They didn't manipulate numbers. Relationships among non-resetters were brutal, but stable. Fewer promises. Fewer surprises. Fewer betrayals. Meanwhile, those who reset started to feel something they couldn't name. A tension. Like standing on glass they couldn't see. Divorce rates spiked. Mental health hotlines overflowed. People said things like, "I don't recognize myself anymore and everyone feels fake and something's missing, but I don't know what." The system noticed. At 2:17 a.m., again, a message appeared, but only on certain phones. Phase 2 initiated. This time, there was no countdown. No warning. Just a choice. People who hadn't reset received an invitation. People who had received nothing. Evan read the message twice. "Would you like to live in a world where truth is the default? Yes, no, what happens if we say yes?" Evan asked. Lena's expression darkened. "We don't know. The system doesn't explain futures. It only opens doors. And if we say no, then this is it," she said. "The world we have now. Forever." Evan thought about how easy lying used to be. How natural. How invisible. He thought about how heavy the truth felt, and how clean. How many people got this? He asked. "Enough," Lena said. "Not many. But enough to matter." The blinking light between them turned steady. Waiting. Evan looked at his phone. For the first time in his life, he didn't think about how to look good. Or how to win. Or how to escape blame. He thought about what kind of world his father had believed in. He pressed yes. The light went dark. And somewhere, deep beneath layers of code and human history, the system recorded something new. Not a lie. Not a truth. But a decision. And this time, the world would not be able to reset. The change didn't come with alarms. No black screens. No global notifications. No countdowns. It came quietly. The morning after Evan pressed yes, he woke up with the strange feeling that something fundamental had shifted. Like gravity had changed direction by a fraction, too small to notice, too large to ignore. He checked his phone. Nothing unusual. No messages. No updates. No explanation. Outside, the city breathed the same way it always had. Cars honked. Someone argued on a corner. A woman laughed into her phone. The world hadn't ended. But by noon, cracks began to show. At a downtown law firm, a junior associate paused mid-sentence during a meeting. Her mouth opened again, but the polished lie she'd rehearsed simply didn't come out. Instead, she heard herself say, "We hid the risk to close the deal." Silence swallowed the room. In a hospital across town, a doctor looked at a patient's chart and felt his stomach tighten. He could no longer tell the comforting half-truth. "The treatment won't work," he said. "I should have told you sooner." In a classroom, a teacher stopped calling a struggling student lazy and said, out loud, "I didn't know how to help you, so I blamed you instead." None of them knew why it was happening. Only that lying had become difficult. Not impossible. Just uncomfortable enough to feel wrong. Those who hadn't reset felt it first. Like a switch inside them had clicked fully into place. Truth wasn't heroic anymore. It was automatic. Those who had reset felt something else. Resistance. They could still lie, but each one left a residue. A pressure behind the eyes. A tightness in the chest. A sense of misalignment, like forcing a joint the wrong way. Within days, the divide was undeniable. Companies collapsed overnight, not because of exposure, but because executives couldn't maintain narratives that weren't true. Marketing departments froze. Political speeches shortened dramatically. Apologies became blunt, clumsy, devastatingly honest. Markets panicked. Religions argued. Families sat around tables, staring at each other, saying things that had waited decades to be spoken. I stayed because I was afraid, not because I loved you. I had favorites. I knew. I just didn't want to know. There were riots in some cities. Celebrations in others. Movements formed, some calling the change a curse, others calling it evolution. They called it many names. The shift. The clean divide. The end of innocence. Evan watched it unfold from the edges, working odd jobs, sleeping little. Lena disappeared after that night at the station. No messages. No trace. As if she'd been a function, not a person. One evening, Evan received a final notification. No sender. No sound. Just text. Observation complete. A pause. Then, humanity did not fail. Evan exhaled without realizing he'd been holding his breath. Another line appeared. But it did not pass. His fingers trembled. You chose truth when watched. Now the question is different. The screen went white. And one last message filled it. When no system is left, who will you be? The phone powered down. For good. Weeks later, life found a new rhythm. Not better. Not worse. Just more exposed. Some people learned to live without lies and found freedom in the weight of it. Others fought it, denied it, tried to rebuild comfortable illusions, and slowly broke under the effort. Children adapted fastest. They asked fewer polite questions and more real ones. Power no longer hid easily. Love became rarer, but sharper. And somewhere between chaos and clarity, humanity stood naked before itself, with no reset button left to press. Evan walked past the old cafe one morning and saw a handwritten sign taped to the door. Closed today. Owner finally told himself the truth. He smiled. Not because the world was fixed, but because it was finally honest about being broken. And as the noise of the city swelled around him, one question echoed louder than all the rest. If you had been given the button, would you have pressed reset? Or would you have stayed to face who you really are?